The alarm screamed across every city on Earth. Tai-Jin ran through the command center, his uniform still smoking from the last explosion. Outside the reinforced windows, the sky burned red and orange. Ships the size of mountains hung above the clouds, raining fire on everything below. "How many made it to the launch sites?" he shouted over the noise. A young officer looked up from her screen, tears streaming down her face. 11 ships launched successfully, Commander. 2 more are loading now." Tai-Jin grabbed the communication device and switched to the emergency channel. His voice went out to every evacuation site on the planet. "This is Commander Tai-Jin. If you can hear me, get to the ships now. We have maybe 20 minutes before they hit the core facilities." The Vrelnaks had arrived 3 days ago. No warning, no communication, just weapons fire from orbit. Earth's defense fleet lasted 6 hours. Now the planet was dying, and humanity was running for its life. Across the city, Hee-Jin worked frantically in her laboratory. The walls shook with each explosion, but she kept her hands steady. The data transfer showed 78% complete. Everything humanity had ever learned, every book, every song, every memory was being copied to the 13 colony ships. "Doctor, we need to leave now," her assistant yelled. "Not yet. Just 2 more minutes." Another blast hit closer. The lights flickered. The computers kept working. 85%. 90%. The building groaned around them. "Doctor!" 98%. 99% complete. Hee-Jin grabbed the data core and ran. Behind her, the laboratory exploded into flames. On the landing field, Dongwu stood at the bridge of the colony ship Indomitable. Thousands of people crowded into every available space. Children cried. Adults stared in shock at the screens showing their burning world. "Captain, we need to launch," his first officer said quietly. "The Vrelnak ships are moving into position for planetary bombardment." Dongwu looked at the crowd still running toward the ship. There were too many. There would always be too many. He could wait another minute, save another 100 people, or he could launch now and save the thousands already aboard. "Seal the doors," he whispered. "Prepare for launch." The massive doors closed slowly. People on the outside pounded against them, screaming. Dongwu forced himself to watch. He would remember every face. He would remember what the Vrelnaks had done. The Indomitable rose into the sky, joining 12 other ships climbing toward space. Below them, Earth convulsed. The Vrelnaks had started their final attack. Tai-Jin made it to the last ship just as the engines fired. He stumbled into the cargo bay, looking back through the closing door at the planet where he was born. Where his parents died, where his children had played in parks that no longer existed. The ship shook as it broke through the atmosphere. Through the windows, the survivors watched their homeworld die. The Vrelnak's weapons hit the tectonic plates. Continents cracked apart. Oceans boiled. The planet that had given birth to humanity became a ball of fire and ash. In the Vrelnak's command ship, the fleet master watched Earth's destruction with satisfaction. Another primitive species eliminated. Mark this system for colonization. The location is strategically valuable. "What about the ships that escaped?" an officer asked. The fleet master waved a hand dismissively. 13 small colony ships? Let them run. They have no weapons, no allies, nowhere to go. They will die in the void, and the universe will forget humanity ever existed. On the Indomitable, Dongwu gathered the other ship captains on a video call. 13 faces appeared on the screen, men and women who had just watched everything they loved burn. "They think we will die out here," Tai-Jin said quietly. He had taken charge naturally, the way survivors always looked to the strongest among them. "They think we are broken. They think we will forget," added Hee-Jin, her face covered in soot and dried tears. Dongwu looked at each captain in turn. Then he spoke the words that would define humanity for the next 100 years. "We will not die. We will not forget. We will survive, we will grow strong, and we will return. Every child born on our new worlds will know what happened here. Every generation will prepare for the day we settle the score." The other captains nodded. In their eyes, Dongwu saw what he felt in his own heart. Not just grief. Not just pain. Something colder and harder. "One day," he continued, "the Vrelnaks will understand what they created when they burned our world. They wanted to erase humanity. Instead, they gave us a purpose." The ships turned away from their dead planet and jumped into deep space. Behind them, Earth continued to burn. The Vrelnaks thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. The colony ships scattered in 13 different directions. Each one carried between 3,000 and 5,000 survivors. Each one disappeared into regions of space where no civilized species ever traveled. 20 years after Earth's destruction, Sang-Ho stood on the bridge of the military station called Sanctuary. Around him, the asteroid field provided natural cover from sensors. Hidden throughout the rocks were weapons platforms, shipyards, and training facilities. The last colony reported in, Admiral, his communications officer said. All 13 settlements are stable and growing. Sang-Ho nodded. 20 years. The children born after Earth's death were now young adults who had never seen their homeworld. But they all knew the story. Every human child learned to speak the names of Earth's lost cities like prayers. In a hidden base inside a nebula, Bo-Ra worked on the technology that would change everything. She stood before a massive ship that seemed to shimmer and fade from view. Run the test again, she ordered. The ship's engines powered up. On every sensor screen in the facility, the ship simply vanished. No heat signature. No energy readings, nothing. Bo-Ra smiled. The Vrelnaks had the best sensors in the galaxy, but the Vrelnaks had never fought an enemy who had nothing left to lose and a century to prepare. It works, she said quietly. We can hide from them. 50 years after Earth burned, humanity had 13 thriving colonies. But they stayed hidden, silent, invisible to the rest of the galaxy. The Vrelnaks announced that humans were extinct. The Galactic Council recorded Earth's destruction as an unfortunate incident. Life went on. But in the hidden human worlds, nothing was forgotten. Nari worked in the shadows of the galaxy, living under false identities on a dozen different worlds. She looked nothing like a human anymore. Surgical alterations and synthetic skin made her appear to be whatever species she needed to be. Tonight she was attending a reception at the Vrelnak's embassy on a neutral world. She smiled and made small talk while her hidden devices copied every file from their computer system. Later, alone in her small ship, she reviewed what she had found. Her hands shook as she read the files. Earth was not the first. The Vrelnaks had destroyed 6 other species before humanity. They chose young species who seemed weak. They took their planets and erased them from history. Earth was just number 7. Nari sent the encrypted files back to Human Command. Then she sat in the dark and cried for all the species who died alone, with no one to remember them. 70 years after the burning, Taijin was now the supreme commander of all human military forces. His hair had gone completely white. His hands trembled slightly from old injuries. But his eyes still burned with the same fire that had driven him from Earth's ashes. He stood in the war room, surrounded by the military leaders of all 13 colonies. On the screen before them was a map of Vrelnak space. They are comfortable, Taijin said. They believe they are safe. They think humanity is just a footnote in history books that no one reads. Then it is time to remind them, said Dongwu, who now commanded the largest battle group in the human fleet. In a secret research facility, Kitei made a discovery that would terrify the galaxy if anyone knew about it. Deep in an unexplored system, humans had found ruins, not just any ruins. These were left by the precursors, the ancient species who had built the mass relay network and then vanished millions of years ago. Kitei studied the strange symbols and impossible geometries. Slowly, carefully, he began to understand. The precursors had not just built machines. They had found ways to manipulate the basic forces of reality itself. Sir, his assistant asked nervously, should we really be studying this? These weapons were abandoned for a reason. Kitei looked at the young man. The Vrelnaks killed our world. They murdered billions of humans and 6 other species. Yes, we should study this, and yes, we will use it. By the 95th year, human society had transformed. Every citizen trained in combat. Every ship carried weapons. Every child grew up learning tactics and strategy alongside mathematics and history. But humans also learned restraint. They studied ethics and law. They debated morality and justice. They wanted revenge, but they did not want to become monsters. He Jin, now the chief diplomat for humanity, taught the young people who would one day face the galaxy again. We will hurt them, she told her students. We will make them pay for what they did. But we will not become them. We will not kill billions of innocent people. We will not destroy worlds. We will strike at those responsible, and we will make the galaxy remember that justice matters. In the 100th year after Earth's death, the 13 colonies held a moment of silence. Every human everywhere stopped what they were doing. They faced in the direction where Earth once existed and remembered. Sang-Ho stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution. Around him in space, the entire human fleet had gathered. Hundreds of ships, all invisible to enemy sensors. Thousands of crews, all trained and ready. A century of preparation was complete. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we have confirmation from all fleet elements. Everyone is ready." Sang-Ho thought of the young commander who had fled Earth so long ago. He thought of all the people who had lived and died in the 100 years since, never seeing their revenge. He thought of the 6 other species whose names humanity had learned, species who had no one else to remember them. "Send the message to all ships," he said. "Operation Homecoming begins now." The Vrelnax wanted to erase humanity. "Tonight we show them what we have become." The invisible fleet turned toward Vrelnax space. The century of silence was over. The mining colony on Vrelnax 7 had 30,000 workers. They extracted rare minerals from the asteroid belt and sent them back to the homeworld. The colony had operated for 60 years without any problems. On the morning of the attack, everything seemed normal. The miners were starting their shifts. Children were going to school. The defense platforms orbited peacefully above. Then the defense platforms exploded. The colony administrator rushed to the command center. "What happened? Who is attacking us?" The sensors showed nothing. No ships, no weapons fire. Just explosions. Before anyone could respond, the colony's power grid failed. Life support went offline. Communication systems went dead. In the darkness and chaos, something moved through the colony. Jae-won led his team through the corridors silently. Their suits masked all heat signatures and sound. They moved like ghosts through the panicking crowd. Their mission was not to kill civilians. Their mission was to destroy every military installation and every computer system. 30 minutes later, the team was back on their ship. The colony had no power, no communications, no way to call for help. "Leave the message," Jae-won ordered. On every blank screen in the colony, words appeared in burning letters. "We remember Earth." The stealth ship vanished into space before the Vrelnax military arrived. When the Vrelnax High Command received the report, they did not understand. "What kind of pirates have technology to hide from our sensors?" The fleet master demanded. "Unknown, sir. But this is the 3rd colony hit in 2 months. The pattern is always the same. No warning, no ships detected, total destruction of military assets, and that same message." The fleet master dismissed the concern. "Increase patrols in the border regions. These are just criminals trying to frighten us." But the attacks continued. Mi-sun led her ground team onto a Vrelnax supply depot. The facility was supposed to be impossible to infiltrate. It had guards, cameras, and sensor grids covering every approach. But Bora's technology made the impossible easy. Mi-sun and her team walked past the guards unseen. They copied classified military data from the computer systems. They planted explosives on the ammunition storage, and they left. The explosion started 20 minutes after they were safely away. The facility burned for 3 days. On the ruins, rescue workers found the message carved into the metal walls. "We remember Earth." Across Vrelnax space, the attacks multiplied. A research station vanished. A military academy burned. A fleet repair dock exploded. Always the same pattern. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. Just destruction and that terrible message. The Galactic Council began to take notice. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the mysterious attacks. "The Vrelnax claim these are pirate raids," said the Krell ambassador. "But what pirates have this kind of technology?"
"And why always the same message?"
asked the Vorathi representative. "We remember Earth. That was the human homeworld, was it not?" "Humans are extinct," the Vrelnax ambassador said firmly. "They died out a century ago. This is obviously some criminal group trying to use fear tactics. But whispers spread through the galaxy. Humans had disappeared after their planet burned. Now someone was attacking the Vrelnax with weapons and tactics no one had ever seen before. The whispers grew louder. The humans have returned. Nari sat in a quiet bar on a trading station, listening to the conversations around her. She looked like a Terrellian merchant now, her features completely changed by surgery. "I heard they hit 12 facilities last month," someone whispered. "The Vrelnax are offering huge rewards for any information. My cousin works in Vrelnax intelligence. He says they are terrified but will not admit it." Nari smiled into her drink. "Let them be terrified. Let them wonder. Let them start to understand what it felt like when death came from nowhere. She finished her drink and left. She had 5 more Vrelnax facilities to infiltrate before the week ended. After 6 months of ghost attacks, Taejin gathered his commanders for a briefing. The Vrelnax still will not acknowledge that we are responsible, he said. They tell their people these are random criminal acts. Good, said Dongwu. Fear works better when they do not understand the source. But there is more, Taejin continued. He activated a screen showing files that Nari had stolen. We now have evidence of 6 other species that the Vrelnax destroyed. The Krell, the Varathi, the Minoreth. 3 others whose names we are still learning. All of them were attacked the same way Earth was. Young species, weak defenses, valuable planets. The room fell silent. Humanity had spent a century preparing to avenge Earth. Now they learned that Earth was just one of many victims. What do we do with this information? Asked Heejin. Taejin looked at each person in the room. We find the survivors of those species. We show them the evidence. And we ask them if they want justice too. Jaewon nodded slowly. Revenge is cold when you are alone. But justice is better when you have others who understand. The ghost attacks continued for another 3 months. 17 major Vrelnax facilities were destroyed. Hundreds of minor installations were damaged. Thousands of Vrelnax military personnel died. Billions in resources were lost, and still, no one saw the attackers. The Vrelnax fleets patrolled empty space, finding nothing. Their sensors detected nothing. Their intelligence networks learned nothing. On the human flagship, Sang-Ho studied the latest reports. The Vrelnax are starting to panic. They are moving ships from other areas to protect their core systems. That leaves their border territories exposed, noted Dongwu. Exactly. And that is where we will hit them next. Not as ghosts this time, as a fleet. Sang-Ho looked at his officers. It is time to show them that humanity did not just survive. We evolved. We became something they cannot fight. The ghost strikes had been the warning, the opening move. The message that humanity remembered. Now it was time for the real war to begin. In a classified intelligence report that only the highest Vrelnax officials saw, an analyst had written a single sentence of warning. The report was filed away and ignored. The sentence read, "If these attackers are indeed the surviving humans, we may have made a critical error 100 years ago." The meeting took place on Station Omega, a neutral trading post in deep space where no government held authority. The station attracted smugglers, refugees, and people who needed to hide from the law. Tonight it attracted survivors. Hyejin arrived first, dressed in simple clothing that hid her identity. She had not been this nervous in years. 2 guards stood with her, but they looked like ordinary travelers. One by one, the others arrived. The Krell representative came with 3 bodyguards. His species looked like upright lizards with intelligent eyes. His homeworld had been occupied by the Vrelnax 60 years ago. Most of his people were slaves or scattered refugees. The Varathi ambassador arrived next. Her species had delicate features and 4 arms. The Vrelnax had bombed their industrial cities 80 years ago. The Varathi had surrendered to save what remained of their population. Then came representatives of the Minoreth, the Tarkhan, and 2 other species whose names humanity had only recently learned. Each one had suffered at Vrelnax's hands. Each one had been too weak to fight back. Nari had arranged everything carefully. She had contacted each species secretly, sharing small pieces of evidence, building trust slowly over months. Now they all sat in a private room looking at each other with suspicion and hope. Hyejin stood. "Thank you all for coming. I know this is dangerous. I know you are taking a great risk by being here. We took a risk trusting a human," the Krell representative said. His voice was rough and bitter. "Your species has been extinct for a century. How do we know you are what you claim to be?" Hyejin had expected this. She removed her disguise completely, showing her true human features. Then she held up a small device. "This contains the complete records of Earth's final days. Video recordings, communications, everything. I'm going to show you what the Vrelnax did to us." The lights dimmed. The screen came to life. For 20 minutes, the representatives watched Earth burn. They saw the cities destroyed. They saw the ships fleeing. They saw the Vrelnax fleetmaster give the order to crack the planet apart. When the video ended, several representatives were crying. "I am sorry," the Varathi ambassador whispered. "We did not know. No one knew, Hyejin said. The Vrelnaks made sure of that. But we know now, and we have evidence of what they did to all of you as well. Nari stepped forward and activated another screen. Files appeared, stolen from the deepest Vrelnaks archives, reports, orders, plans. The Vrelnaks have a strategy, Nari explained. They identify young species who are just starting to explore space. Species who have valuable planets but weak militaries. They destroy these species and take their worlds. They have done this 7 times that we know of. The Minareth representative stood suddenly. This is what we suspected but could never prove. When they attacked us, they said it was because we had violated some treaty. But there was no treaty. They just wanted our water-rich planets. Exactly, said Taejin, who now entered the room. He wore his military uniform, his rank clearly visible. The Vrelnaks are not powerful because they are advanced. They are powerful because they are predators who only attack the weak. The Krell representative studied Taejin carefully. You are the one leading the attacks on Vrelnaks facilities. I am. Then you have done more damage in 6 months than all of our resistance movements have done in 60 years. How? Taejin smiled. Because when the Vrelnaks destroyed Earth, they made a mistake. They gave us nothing left to lose, and they gave us a century to prepare. He gestured, and more humans entered the room. Engineers, scientists, military officers. Each one began explaining what humanity had developed in their century of hiding. Bora showed them the stealth technology. The Krell representative actually gasped. This should not be possible. Our scientists said no one could hide from modern sensors. Your scientists were correct. No one could. Until now. Kaite explained the weapons based on precursor technology. The Varathi ambassador looked troubled. These weapons are incredibly dangerous. The Galactic Council banned this kind of research. The Galactic Council did nothing when your world was bombed, Kite replied quietly. The Council is comfortable making rules when those rules protect the strong. Where was the Council when Earth burned? No one had an answer. Dongwu discussed military tactics. The Vrelnaks are used to fighting enemies who are afraid. Enemies who try to defend their homes. We do not play defense. We strike and vanish. We attack their infrastructure, their logistics, their confidence. But you are just one species, the Tarkon representative said. Even with your technology, you cannot defeat the entire Vrelnaks collective alone. You are correct, Taejin said. Which is why we are here. Not to ask for your help, but to offer ours. He stood at the head of the table looking at each representative. We have spent 100 years planning our revenge. We have the weapons, the ships, and the determination. But revenge alone is empty. What we want now is justice. Justice for Earth. Justice for every species the Vrelnaks destroyed. Hyejin continued. We are offering to share our technology with you. Not just weapons, everything, our stealth systems, our manufacturing techniques, our training methods. We will teach you how to fight the way we fight. Why? The Krell representative asked. What do you gain from this? Allies, Sangho said, who had been listening quietly. The Vrelnaks are strong, but they are not invincible. Together we can break them. Together we can make sure they never destroy another species again. The room fell silent. The representatives looked at each other. Finally, the Varathi ambassador spoke. For 80 years my people have lived under Vrelnaks' domination. We have tried everything. Diplomacy, sabotage, rebellion. Nothing worked because we were too weak and too alone. She looked at Taejin. If you are truly offering us a chance to be strong, if you are truly offering us a chance to be free, then the Varathi stand with humanity. One by one, the other representatives agreed. The Krell, the Minareth, the Tarkon. All of them joined. Taejin smiled. Then let us form an alliance. Not of the strong, but of the broken. Of those who survived when they were supposed to die. Together we will remind the galaxy that justice matters. They called themselves the Alliance of the Broken, 7 species bound together by grief and hope, and the Vrelnaks had no idea they existed. The planning took 3 months. Representatives from 7 species worked together in hidden bases, coordinating the largest military operation in their combined histories. Sangho stood before a massive holographic display showing Vrelnaks space. Red markers indicated targets. 50 systems, 50 simultaneous attacks. The key is timing, he explained to the assembled commanders. We hit everything at once. Supply depots, shipyards, communication relays, command centers. The Vrelnax must feel like their entire empire is collapsing. A Krell commander raised a question. What about civilian casualties? We avoid them when possible, Taejin answered. Our targets are military and infrastructure only. We are not like the Vrelnax. We do not murder families to make a point. The day of the attack, Young Sik commanded the carrier group assigned to hit the Vrelnax supply hub at Sector 7. His ship carried 200 fighters. Around him in space, invisible to all sensors, were 30 more Alliance ships. All units report ready, sir, his officer said. Young Sik looked at the clock, counting down. Across 50 systems, other commanders were watching the same countdown. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of crew members. All waiting. The clock reached 0. Execute, Young Sik ordered. The Alliance fleet dropped their stealth fields and opened fire. The Vrelnax defenders had no warning. One moment their sensors showed empty space. The next moment they were under attack from enemies they did not know existed. At Sector 7, the battle lasted 40 minutes. Alliance fighters swarmed the defense platforms. Kite's new weapons tore through Vrelnax shields like they were not there. The supply depot exploded in a series of massive detonations. Similar scenes played out across 50 systems. The Vrelnax Third Fleet, considered the most powerful military force in their empire, was stationed at the Meridian Cluster. They had 60 capital ships and 300 support vessels. They had never lost a battle. The fleet commander was reviewing patrol reports when alarms began screaming. Enemy contact! Multiple ships appearing on all sides. How many? The commander demanded. Scanning. Sir, we are reading at least 80 capital ships and over 400 fighters. That is impossible. Where did they come from? Dongwu commanded the Alliance attack force. His flagship, the Earth's Fury, led the charge. All units focus fire on their command carriers. Take out their leadership first. The Vrelnax Third Fleet tried to form a defensive formation, but the Alliance moved too fast. Human stealth destroyers hit from unexpected angles. Krell bombers targeted engines. Farathi's ships jammed communications. And Kite's weapons did terrible work. They manipulated space-time itself, crushing ships from the inside out. The Vrelnax had no defense against them. 47 minutes after the battle started, the Vrelnax Third Fleet ceased to exist. 60 capital ships became debris. The fleet commander died when his bridge exploded. Thousands of Vrelnax crew members were killed or captured. Dongwu looked at the wreckage and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Move to the next target. On the Vrelnax homeworld, chaos erupted in the High Command Center. Reports flooded in from 50 systems. Attacks everywhere. Massive losses. Unknown enemies with impossible technology. Who is doing this? The Supreme Leader shouted. Where are these ships coming from? An intelligence officer pulled up a report. Sir, we are receiving the same message at every attack site. The same message we have been seeing in the ghost attacks. What message? The officer activated a screen. Across burning ruins and shattered facilities, the same words appeared. We remember Earth. The Supreme Leader went pale. The humans. But that is impossible. They are extinct. Sir, I am also receiving reports that the attack forces include Krell, Varathi, and Minareth ships, species we have defeated in the past. An alliance? When did this happen? No one had an answer. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The large chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Everyone was shouting at once. The Vrelnax ambassador stood at the center. We demand immediate military assistance. We are under attack by terrorists and criminals. Heejin walked into the chamber. She had not been there in over a century. Every eye turned to her. Terrorists? She said loudly. Is that what you call the survivors of genocide? The chamber fell silent. Who are you? The council leader asked. My name is Heejin. I am a human, and I am here to present evidence of Vrelnax war crimes. The Vrelnax ambassador tried to object, but Heejin was already activating the holographic display. The entire council watched Earth's destruction. They watched the Vrelnax fleet master give the order to crack the planet. They watched billions die. Then she showed them the other species. The files Nari had stolen showed everything. 7 species targeted and destroyed. 7 homeworlds turned to ash or conquered. This is Vrelnax propaganda, the ambassador shouted. Lies created to justify attacks on our people. These are your own files, Heejin replied coldly. Stolen from your classified archives. Your own reports. Your own orders. You cannot deny what you yourself wrote. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some species called for an investigation. Others called for immediate action. The Vrelnax demanded protection. Hee-Jin raised her voice above the noise. The Vrelnax destroyed Earth because they thought we were weak. They thought they could take our solar system and face no consequences. They were wrong. She looked directly at the Vrelnax ambassador. You wanted to erase humanity. Instead, you created your worst enemy. For 100 years, we prepared. We built weapons you cannot stop. We learned tactics you cannot counter. And we found allies who share our cause. Today, we struck 50 of your systems simultaneously. Your third fleet no longer exists. Your supply network is crippled. Your border defenses are broken. And this is just the beginning. The council leader tried to restore order. The council will review this evidence and make a determination. Take all the time you need, Hee-Jin said. While you debate, we will continue to dismantle the Vrelnax Empire piece by piece. Every species they ever harmed is coming for them now. And there is nothing you can do to stop us. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the Vrelnax ambassador was shouting denials that no one believed. On the flagship Retribution, Sang-Ho reviewed the battle reports. 50 systems hit, 48 successful strikes, 2 partial successes, minimal alliance casualties. The Vrelnax are reeling, Taejin said. Their military is in chaos. Their economy is collapsing. Their allies are abandoning them. Good, Sang-Ho replied. Now we show them what real war looks like. Now we take the fight to their core worlds. Across the Alliance territories, celebrations erupted. For the first time in generations, the oppressed species felt hope. The Vrelnax could be beaten. The impossible was happening. And in their homes, the Vrelnax finally understood fear. The species they had tried to erase had returned, and they were unstoppable. The Alliance fleet gathered at the edge of Vrelnax Prime's solar system. Over 300 ships from 7 species formed the largest invasion force anyone had ever assembled. Taejin stood on the bridge of the command ship, looking at the planet where the Vrelnax High Council ruled. From here, they had ordered Earth's destruction. From here, they had condemned 6 other species to death or slavery. Send the message, Taejin ordered. The communication went out on all frequencies, broadcasted across the entire planet and to every ship in the system. This is Supreme Commander Taejin of the Alliance of the Broken. We are here for the members of the Vrelnax High Council, who ordered the destruction of Earth and the genocide of 6 other species. Surrender them for trial. Agree to pay reparations to all victim species and submit to galactic justice. You have 1 hour to respond. On Vrelnax Prime, the High Council met an emergency session. Through the windows of their tower, they could see the Alliance fleet in orbit. Hundreds of ships, weapons pointed at their world. We cannot surrender, the Supreme Leader said. If we give in to these demands, the collective will collapse. If we do not surrender, they will attack, another council member argued. You saw what they did to the Third Fleet. We cannot win. We have the Home Guard. We have planetary shields. We have defensive platforms. This planet has never fallen to any enemy. The council voted. They would not surrender. When the hour ended and no response came, Taejin felt a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. Part of him had hoped the Vrelnax would choose peace, but another part, the part that remembered Earth burning, knew they would refuse. Begin the attack, he ordered. The Vrelnax Home Guard was the elite military force protecting the homeworld. 200 ships, the best crews, the newest weapons. They launched to meet the Alliance fleet with confidence. That confidence lasted 12 minutes. The Alliance had spent months studying Vrelnax tactics. They knew every maneuver, every strategy, every weakness. And they had weapons the Home Guard had never faced before. Kite's space-time manipulators tore through shields and armor. Bora's stealth ships appeared in impossible locations. The coordinated attack from 7 species with 7 different fighting styles overwhelmed the Home Guard's ability to respond. Dongwu led the vanguard, his ship Earth's Fury smashing through enemy formations. For Earth, he shouted as his weapons reduced a Vrelnax carrier to wreckage. Around the planet, orbital defense platforms exploded one by one. The planetary shields, considered impenetrable, flickered and failed as Alliance ships focused fire on the generators. Inside his ship, Young Sik coordinated the bomber wings. Target the shield generators at coordinate 773. All wings attack pattern Omega. 200 fighters dove toward the planet's surface, dodging defensive fire. Their bombs hit the generators with precision. The shields collapsed section by section. On Vrelnax Prime, people watched the battle in the sky with growing terror. Their mighty home guard was being destroyed. Their shields were falling. The enemy was coming. In the council tower, alarms screamed. "The shields are down. Enemy ships are entering the atmosphere." The Supreme Leader stared at the screens in disbelief. "This cannot be happening. We are Vrelnax. We do not lose," but they were losing. Badly. Taejin watched the battle progress. The home guard was defeated. The orbital defenses were destroyed. The path to the surface was clear. He could give the order to bombard the cities. He could turn Vrelnax Prime into what they had made of Earth. Billions would die. The Vrelnax would be erased. But that was not what humanity had become. "Ceasefire," Taejin ordered. "All ships hold position. Send in the ground forces." Jaewon led the special operations team through the capital city. They had one target, the High Council Tower. The streets were full of panicking civilians, but the Alliance soldiers moved past them without harm. "We are not here for you," Jaewon announced over loudspeakers. "We are here for your leaders. Stay in your homes, and you will not be harmed." The tower had defensive systems and elite guards. None of it mattered. Jaewon's team had trained for this moment for a decade. They moved through the defenses like ghosts. Guards fell unconscious before they could raise alarms. Security systems were disabled in seconds. In the council chamber, the Supreme Leader heard explosions getting closer. "Seal the doors. Call for reinforcements." But there were no reinforcements left. The home guard was destroyed. The military was scattered. The Alliance controlled the skies. The doors exploded inward. Jaewon and his team entered, weapons raised. "Vrelnax High Council," Jaewon said calmly. "You are under arrest for genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sentient life." The Supreme Leader tried to run. Misun caught him easily. One by one, the council members were captured and restrained. Taejin broadcast the arrest live to the entire galaxy. Every species watched as the Vrelnax High Council was led away in restraints. The leaders who had seemed so powerful now looked small and afraid. "The Vrelnax High Council will stand trial," Taejin announced, "not just for what they did to Earth, but for all their crimes. 7 species deserve justice. Today they will get it." The trial took place on a neutral station watched by billions across the galaxy. Heejin presented the evidence methodically. The orders to destroy Earth, the plans to exterminate the Krell, the bombing of Vorathi cities, the enslavement of the Minareth. Each council member was given a chance to defend themselves. They claimed they were protecting Vrelnax interests. They claimed the other species were threats. They claimed they did what was necessary. Heejin stood before them. "You murdered billions because you wanted their planets. You destroyed 7 civilizations because you thought you could. You are not protectors. You are predators, and today you face the consequences." The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all charges. The sentence was death. Representatives from each victim species participated in the execution. A Krell who had lost his family when his homeworld fell. A Vorathi who had survived the bombing of her city. A Minareth who had escaped slavery. A human who had watched Earth burn. And 3 others, speaking for species whose names humanity had learned from Vrelnax archives. When it was over, the galaxy watched in silence. The Vrelnax High Council, which had ruled for decades and killed billions, was no more. On Vrelnax Prime, the government collapsed. Different factions fought for control. The collective that had dominated the region for centuries fell apart in weeks. Taejin addressed the Alliance forces. "We came here for justice. We have achieved it. But our work is not done. The Vrelnax people are not all guilty. Many of them never knew what their leaders did. We will not become monsters to fight monsters." The Alliance fleet withdrew from Vrelnax Prime, leaving the planet in chaos. But alive, they had proven their point. They had delivered justice. But more importantly, they had shown the galaxy that they were better than their enemies. They could have destroyed Vrelnax Prime. They chose not to. That choice would matter more than all the battles they had won. 3 years after the fall of the Vrelnax High Council, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council met to vote on a new law. Nari sat in the observer section, watching as species from across known space cast their votes. The proposal was simple. Any species that commits genocide would face immediate military intervention by all council members. The vote was unanimous. Every single species agreed. Hyejin, now humanity's permanent ambassador to the Council, stood to address the chamber. This law comes too late for Earth, too late for the Krell homeworld, too late for 6 other civilizations, but perhaps it will save the next species that a predator tries to destroy. After the session, representatives from dozens of species approached her. They wanted to talk about trade agreements, technology sharing, and mutual defense treaties. Humanity, once considered extinct, was now one of the most respected voices in galactic politics. But humans had learned to be careful with power. Across the former Vrelnax territories, the Alliance of the Broken had transformed into the Alliance of the Restored. They worked together to rebuild what war had destroyed. Sang-Ho oversaw the reconstruction of the Krell homeworld. Human engineers worked alongside Krell workers to restore cities and infrastructure. The occupation had ended. Freedom had returned. My grandchildren will see a free Krell homeworld, the Krell ambassador told Sang-Ho. I never thought I would live to say those words. Thank you, Sang-Ho shook his head. We did not do this for thanks. We did it because it was right. On Varathi Prime, Bora supervised the installation of new defensive systems. The Varathi would never be vulnerable again. They would never have to surrender to save their people from bombs. These defenses are incredible, the Varathi military commander said. How much do we owe you for this technology? Nothing, Bora replied. We share our technology freely with our allies. The only price is that you promise to use it to protect others, not to conquer them. The Varathi commander placed her 4 hands over her heart in a gesture of deep respect. This, we swear. Kite did something that surprised everyone. He destroyed all the research on the most dangerous precursor weapons. Not just his copies, all of it. When Taejin asked him why, Kite said, because we proved we did not need them. We won through strategy, courage, and unity. These weapons are too terrible. They should never exist again. Some called him a fool, but most understood. Power was most dangerous when it was too easy to use. Humanity made other important decisions. They voted not to rebuild Earth. The ruins would remain as they were, a monument to what had been lost. Instead, they established the Memorial Garden on New Sol, humanity's capital colony. 7 monuments stood in the garden, 1 for Earth and 1 for each of the other species the Vrelnax had destroyed. Every human child visited the garden as part of their education. They learned the names of the lost. They learned what hatred and fear could lead to. They learned why justice mattered more than revenge. Taejin walked through the garden often. He was old now, his body failing, but he wanted to see what humanity had built from the ashes. Today his granddaughter Acha walked with him. She was 18, training at the new Galactic Defense Academy where humans, Krell, Varathi, and dozens of other species learned together. Grandfather, she asked, was it worth it? All the years of hiding, all the people who died in the war? Taejin watched the young cadets training in the distance. Humans and aliens working together, laughing together. A Krell helping a human with a combat drill. A Varathi teaching a Minareth student navigation techniques. Look at them, he said quietly. 50 years ago, some of those species were slaves or refugees. Now they stand as equals. They defend each other. They build together. He turned to his granddaughter. Earth is gone. Billions died. Nothing can bring them back. But we made sure it will never happen again. We made sure that the next species facing extinction will have allies. We turned our grief into something that protects others. So yes, he continued, it was worth it. Not because we got revenge, but because we built something better than what was taken from us. Acha hugged him. I will make sure your generation is remembered. Not just for the war, but for what came after. The Memorial Fleet patrolled the borders of known space. 13 massive dreadnoughts, each named for one of the colony ships that had fled Earth. They were humanity's gift to the galaxy, fast response ships that could reach any distress call within days. Dongwu commanded the flagship, the Indomitable. He was older too, but still sharp. When pirates attacked a mining colony, the Indomitable arrived in 18 hours. The pirates fled at the sight of the massive warship. When a disease outbreak threatened a remote world, the Indomitable brought medical supplies and doctors. The grateful colonists asked how they could repay humanity. Help someone else when they need it, Dongwu told them. That is how you repay us. The Vrelnax collective had fractured into 7 smaller nations. Some remained hostile, others sought redemption. The Alliance helped those who wanted to change, and contained those who did not. Nari worked in what she called making sure the monsters stay in their cages. She ran the intelligence network that watched for the next threat, because there would always be another threat. But now the galaxy was ready. The Galactic Council had teeth. The Alliance of the Restored would respond to any aggression, and humanity had proven that even the strong could fall if they pushed too far. In the Galactic Defense Academy, young people from 100 species studied together. They learned tactics from human instructors, technology from Krell scientists, and philosophy from Vorathi teachers. One day, an instructor asked the class, "What is the most important lesson of the Vrelnak's war?" A human student answered, "Never underestimate your enemy." A Krell student said, "Unity is stronger than tyranny." A Vorathi student replied, "Justice delayed is not justice denied." The instructor smiled. All correct. But here is what I want you to remember most. Humanity was nearly destroyed. They could have become bitter, cruel, consumed by hate. Instead, they became the guardians they needed when they were weak. That is the greatest victory. Taejin lived to see his 90th birthday. By then, humanity had become what he had always hoped. Not conquerors, not tyrants, protectors. On his final day, surrounded by family, he looked at the stars through the window. Somewhere out there, Earth's ruins still orbited the sun, but everywhere else, life flourished. "We settled the score," he whispered. "Not with destruction, but with creation. Not with hate, but with hope." His granddaughter held his hand. "The galaxy is better because you lived, grandfather." He smiled and closed his eyes. Behind him, outside the window, ships from a dozen species flew past, heading out to protect those who could not protect themselves. The Vrelnaks had wanted to erase humanity and prove they were weak. Instead, they had created something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that knew pain and chose compassion. A species that knew rage and chose justice. A species that faced extinction and became the force that made sure no one else would. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not gone, and the galaxy was better for it. The story of Earth's fall and humanity's rise became legend. Parents told it to their children. Teachers taught it in schools. And every species remembered the message: we are stronger together than any of us are alone. Humanity had settled the score. Not through destruction, but through building a galaxy where the strong protected the weak, where justice mattered more than power, where the broken could become whole again, and the galaxy, which had trembled in terror, now rested easier knowing that humanity was watching.